Hello and welcome to Boom and Gloom, a Columbus Blue Jackets fan podcast where I talk about the boom, the good, and the gloom, the bad, of our beloved CBJ. I'm your host, Anthony. I go by Whaler Jacket in the social media world, and as I always say, I am Ohio's longest suffering hockey fan. I say Ohio, but sometimes I wonder if there is anyone else in the country who has suffered as long as I have. I mean, how many avid NHL hockey fans out there can say that they have seen their favorite team get past the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs once in their entire lifetime? In addition to having their favorite team ripped away from them and moved to another state. That would be the Hartford Whalers. In addition to having their college alma mater team, Miami University, lose a national championship after being up by 2 goals with a minute left in the game. My favorite AHL team, the New Haven Nighthawks, was even moved to another city and their arena was demolished. Yeah, for me to fall into all those categories, that makes me a pretty sad sack when it comes to hockey. It really makes me wonder if I'm actually the longest suffering hockey fan in the country. I thought of something else today. In 1987, the Hartford Whalers finished in first place in the Adams division. They won their first 2 playoff games against the Quebec Nordiques and then lost the next 4. That pretty much started the downfall for me. Since then, I've never seen my favorite team finish higher than 3rd place in a division. 3rd place. Yeah. That's when the Jackets had an amazing season. I forget which year it was. They finished in the top 4 in the league and still somehow wound up in 3rd place without home ice advantage in the playoffs. Talk about rotten luck. I have certainly suffered as a hockey fan, and boy, am I suffering right now. Right along with all you other Jackets fans out there. Man, things have changed dramatically since my last episode. I have, unfortunately, a lot of gloom to talk to you about today. What in the heck happened? I think that is the question on every Jackets fan's mind right now, perhaps with a little more profanity laced into it. Things were just dandy. The Jackets were 4 points ahead of the team behind them in the wild card race. They were 4 points, maybe 6, I can't remember, behind the New Jersey Devils for 3rd place in the Metro Division. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't know where they are in the standings now because it is too painful for me to look at. I don't want to know. It is just too frustrating. All I do know is that they are at least 3 points out of the 2nd wild card spot. Probably more since the last time I checked. Frustration is synonymous with being a Blue Jackets fan. But this season, this is a whole different level. It wasn't like they were terrible from the start of the season and we were out of the playoffs by Thanksgiving. This year, there was hope. Something was just different about this team. They held a playoff spot in early March. That was not supposed to happen this year. With the loss of Johnny Gaudreau, this season was supposed to be about growth, development, and analysis. And by analysis, I mean that general manager Don Waddell would use this season to assess his team and decide what changes need to be made going forward. But something amazing happened. The team bonded. The team gelled. Youth started to develop. Leaders stepped up. when others left the lineup due to injury. Goaltenders started playing semi-decent hockey. Then, as you all know, it completely went off the rails. Everything was coming up roses for the Blue Jackets, but those roses contained ready-to-sting bees. And that's an obscure Simpsons reference. The Jackets have currently lost 6 in a row now. They have lost 8 of their last 9 games since the Stadium Series game. What the heck happened? Before I get into that, let's talk about the last 9 games. Let's do like a little recap, because to say that it has been a bad stretch is an understatement. For all you hardcore Jackets fans, this will just be a walk down bad memory lane. These last 9 games, barring their one win at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers, they've been a train wreck, an absolute train wreck. It all started after the Stadium Series game. That game was an amazing event. It was a spectacle. All eyes of the hockey world were on Columbus, and you know what? They delivered. The game was fantastic, and the Jackets won in dramatic, if not controversial, fashion. No doubt the team was on a high leading up to that game. No doubt there was a lot of mental stress leading up to that game. There was all this hoopla surrounding the team and the event, and I understand that. So when that game was over, I am sure there was a sense of relief that things could get back to normal. And what did the Jackets have to do? They had to head down to Florida and play a tough Tampa Bay Lightning team. Jet lag, coming down after a huge high, getting back to normal. I can understand that they were off their game. They did not play well, and I hope they would rebound the next game. The problem was, they were next playing the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Not only do they lose that game, they get shut out 3-0 and are just obviously outclassed by the Panthers. They were in like a completely different league. I thought to myself after the game, does this change Don Waddell's trade deadline strategy? I know he wanted to stay put, but would this game change that? Because it was clear, just obvious, that we are not even close to being a cup contender. So maybe Waddell changes his game plan. Nope. The Jackets made one small move on trade deadline day, bringing in Luke Cunnin from the San Jose Sharks. And I'll talk more about that a little later. What happens next after the deadline? They go to MSG, and despite letting in 2 shorthanded goals on the same power play, the team seemed to be back to its regular form and stomped the Rangers 7-3. The Jackets were back, right? No, unfortunately, they were not. They have not won a game since. That was March 9th. As I record this episode, it is March 23rd. And it's much worse than simply not winning a game since March 9th. It's much worse than that. 2 days later, the Jackets went to New Jersey with an opportunity to gain ground on the Devils. This wasn't just another game to solidify their spot in the wild card, which they held at the time. No, this was an opportunity to inch closer to the third place Devils. And they had games in hand. The Jackets controlled their own destiny. Their hopes for third place in the Metro were on a wing and a prayer. But the wings were on fire, and the prayers were answered by Satan. That's another obscure Simpsons reference from the Behind the Laughter episode. Check it out if you're a Simpsons fan and haven't seen that one. Anyway, I thought this was it. The Jackets were in control of their own destiny. They'll build off the Rangers game and come away with a big win in New Jersey. Sadly, that did not happen. The Jackets lost 5-3, and that began an even bigger downward spiral. At the time, we didn't know that. At that game, we hoped the Jackets would return home to the comfort of Nationwide Arena for a four-game homestand and get some wins. They were still in a playoff spot. They still controlled their destiny. Sure, they had some tough opponents coming into town, but they have shown they are tough opponents and were even tougher to play at their home arena. I expected them to win at least 2 of the 4 home games. They won 0. They were shut out in 3 of the 4 games. And in the game they were not shut out against the Devils, they scored 1 goal. And that was with about 6 minutes left in the game. They almost got shut out again. 4 games, 12 periods of NHL hockey, and they scored 1 goal total. The third period of that Devils game was a sight to behold. They threw everything in the kitchen sink at Jake Allen, but they made him look like a Vezina winner. Olivier was the only person who could get anything by him, despite, honestly, a fantastic period by the team. It was a fantastic period. They played great. And you know what? They played a good game against the Panthers as well. It was a defensive battle, 0-0, went to overtime. The problem was, once again, luck was not on their side. Marchenko gets called for a delay of game penalty, with 30 seconds left in the third period, which gives the Panthers a power play in overtime. Of course they're going to score on that. But let me just do a quick aside here about that penalty. That sucked. The delay of game rule was put in place to discourage players from deliberately shooting the puck over the glass. I get that completely. But in situations like this, it's kind of crappy, all right? Actually, it's very crappy. Marchenko was not intentionally shooting it over the glass. He was battling for a puck with a Panthers player along the boards, and it flipped up and over the glass. It was clearly unintentional. The puck just happened to go over the glass as a result of the puck battle. That's the downside of that rule. I wish there was a way to change that somehow, but then you get into, making it the ref's discretion, deciding whether it was intentional or not, and that opens up a whole new can of worms. Because when the ref decides whether it's intentional or not, then you have arguments from the players every time saying, I didn't mean it. Every time. That's what would happen. So I get that it has to be all or none. But maybe, somehow, the rule can be tweaked in some way where if it's the result of a puck battle and it just happens to pop up over the glass, it's not a penalty. Or, I don't know, if it's not actually shot out of play, it's not a penalty. I don't know. I don't have a solution. I just know the Jackets got screwed on that one. When it rains, it pours. And it has been pouring buckets of poop on the Jackets lately. One more note about the Panthers game that I have here. Boone Jenner had a goal taken away because of a distinct kicking motion. I agreed with that call, by the way. I'm not complaining about it. But it just reinforced the fact that the Jackets just can't seem to buy a goal lately. And did you hear the crowd react to that goal? They were just itching to cheer for a goal. They just erupted, only to have the goal called back, and then the Jackets not score again. Just very frustrating. So the Jackets lose all 4 home games, scoring a total of 1 single goal. And then they had to play the very next night in Pittsburgh. I'm thinking this is a winnable game. Sure, it's the second half of a back-to-back, but you know what? They're due. I don't know if they've won the second game of a back-to-back all year. They maybe have, but it's rare. All the teams that they had been playing were playoff caliber teams. The Penguins are not. This is a winnable game. This is the game the Jackets finally turned things around. Nope. A small consolation surprise, I guess, is they scored 3 goals. But unfortunately, they allowed 5. I've been a huge supporter of Dean Evason all season. But I have to say I disagreed with him starting Elvis Merzlikins in goal 2 days in a row. Jet Greaves was brought up for the game, but they didn't start him. I say play him. I say play Greaves. Elvis did not have a good game, and I was surprised when he was not pulled after letting in the first 3 goals. It was obvious to everyone that he was not having the best night. So I don't agree with Dean often, but this was definitely a case where I did. Give Elvis the night off after a tough 1-0 overtime game the night before. Give Greaves a chance to redeem himself. Because if you recall, he pretty much single-handedly he was pretty much single-handedly responsible for the Devils' second goal a few nights prior, which was ultimately the game-winning goal. If Greaves doesn't give that puck right to the Devils, it's a 1-1 game. Maybe a totally different outcome. So give Greaves the game against the Penguins. See if he gives the team a much-needed spark. Evidently, though, Dean Evason disagreed with this. Elvis goes in, he plays below average, and the Jackets lose yet again. This time 6-3. I've said it before. The Jackets just find new ways to break hearts. They have been a frustrating team almost every season since their existence. This season has quickly solidified itself as one of the most frustrating ever. Why? Because for so long this season, they showed that they were different. They have a great coach and a great system. The team was playing better than expected. They had national attention. It was a storybook season in the making. But what seemed to be a fairy tale has quickly turned into a tragedy. And that's what makes it so hard to swallow. This wasn't just a crappy team from the get-go. No, this was a good hockey team until March 2nd. They got our hopes up. It wasn't like we expected them to suck all year and then they did suck. No, this has become a letdown of epic proportions. I have tried to remain positive, okay? I've tried to say, even if they don't make the playoffs, they are further along than anyone expected. That's a positive. This season should be seen as a success no matter how it ends. Yet I still find myself frustrated and unhappy because they were playing so well, defying all odds. And then it wasn't like they had, a bad game here, maybe a bad game there. No, they completely fell off a cliff. It wasn't just a mild letdown. It was a free fall into a canyon. 1 goal in 4 games at home in a playoff race? That just doesn't happen to any team except the Blue Jackets. I mean, look at the Capitals. They have one of the two best records, maybe the best record. I don't know. I haven't checked the standings. Nobody expected them to be that good this year. They didn't fall off a cliff. They kept going all season. The only team that could have possibly had this happen was the Blue Jackets. They had almost 50 shots on goal against the Penguins, 80-something shot attempts, and still managed to only score 3 goals. A team that has been one of the highest scoring teams in the league this season. A team that has set the franchise record for most games scoring 6 goals or more. Suddenly can't score. And watching those games, sometimes it's shocking how many bounces don't go their way. How many pucks that normally have gone in the net have somehow stayed out. Point blank chances, scrums in front of the net, they turn into miraculous saves by the goaltender. Or posts hit by JVR. He's hit 2 that I remember recently. And Voronkov, wide open in front, and he hits a post. It has been quite the sight. Mind-blowing and just baffling. It has just been a melting pot of bad luck and bad play. When they're bad, they're bad. But even when they're playing well, the puck is not going in the net. What has happened? There are plenty of theories out there. Bob McElligott, the Blue Jackets radio broadcaster, thinks it's just the schedule. There's nothing wrong with team chemistry. It's just they have had some really tough opponents. I completely disagree with this. They're an NHL team playing another NHL team. I don't care who the opponent is. You have to score more than 1 goal in 4 games at home. I don't care who the opponent is. Your power play has got to be better than 0 for the last 20 or 21, whatever it is now. It's not the schedule. Every team faces tough opponents. Every team has road trips. The good teams, which I thought the Blue Jackets were, they find ways to win. They find ways to score, and they take advantage of power plays. And speaking of power plays, how can this team be so bad year after year after year? Different coaches, different systems, different players. The Jackets have not had a consistently good power play since when? The Sam Gagner days, maybe? Maybe ever. I can't remember the last time the Jackets had a completely, a consistently good power play. I mean, have they ever been in the top 10 in the league? I doubt it. I don't know, maybe, but I doubt it. Regardless, I think it's stupid to use the Jackets' schedule as the main reason for this ludicrous slide that they're on right now. They have proven this season they can beat the big-name teams. They've beaten Vegas. They have beaten Dallas. They have beaten the Leafs. Now, granted, okay, if you look back at their results through January, they have not beaten that many good teams. Most of their wins, again, looking back to about January, their wins are against teams like the Blackhawks, the Sharks, the Flyers, teams they should beat. But they have some wins sprinkled in against some of the bigger guns. My point is, they can beat the better teams. They just haven't. So don't tell me the schedule is just too hard for them right now. They're an NHL team. In the NHL, any team can beat any other team on any given night. The Penguins beat up on the Devils right before winning against the Jackets. So please don't use the schedule as the main excuse for what's going on here. Another theory is that they have just run out of gas. I mean, let's face it, this is a very inexperienced team. Adam Fantilli has never played a full NHL season yet, and he's your number one center right now. He's what, 19, 20? Matejchuk, he's a second pair defenseman in his rookie season. I mean, he's only played, a few months when you think about it. Voronkov even, I mean, I think this is his second NHL season. Christensen, his second NHL season. Kent Johnson, what is it, his third full season? Something like that. And get all the injuries that he's had, he probably hasn't even played that. Couple that with the fact that one can argue they hit their high, which culminated with the Stadium Series game. I mean, they've played their butts off all season, played above expectations. Now, maybe they've just come back down to earth. That's the theory, at least. And I'm not sure I buy that theory. I'm just saying it's a theory. Then you have the injuries. The Jackets were cruising with Sean Monahan in the lineup. I mean, he and Voronkov and Marchenko statistically were one of the best, maybe the best first line in the National Hockey League. But no, he gets hurt. You suddenly have to break up that line, and now Adam Fantilli, who has filled in admirably, fills that void, jumps into the top line. But the loss of Monahan was a killer. Then you lose Sillinger to injury. So now you have two of your top three centers out of the lineup. And again, the Jackets had been playing without Monahan admirably, with Luca Del Belbaluz up with a big club. Then Sillinger goes down, and they just haven't been the same, haven't been able to recover. And that brings me to the next theory, which is admittedly a controversial one. It's because of the change in chemistry. What has happened in the last month or two to alter team chemistry? Well, let's see. Monahan is injured. Sillinger is injured. Del Belbaluz is sent back to the AHL. Boone Jenner returns to the lineup. Chinnikov returns to the lineup. Luke Cunnin is added to the lineup. Mikhail Putia is sent down to the AHL. That's a pretty big turnover right there. That's a pretty big swing, like a big shift. I don't really know why the Jackets are currently in this ridiculous slump, but if I had to lean towards one of these theories, it's this one. Boone, Chinny, and Cunnin added to your lineup represents 1/3 of the Jackets' top three lines. So 1/3 of your top 9 players. And now that I think about that, I think Cunnin is actually on the 4th line. So I may be off with that fraction, but we can say 1/4 of your entire forward roster. So 25% of their starting lineup changed when Jenner, Chinnikov, and Cunnin joined the team. That's a significant change. Now, I don't know about you, but I have found Luke Cunnin to be a huge disappointment. And I wasn't expecting much based on his stats. But he has practically been invisible in most of the games since he has arrived. And he was technically part of the team when the Jackets won their last game against the Rangers, but they haven't won since. I would much rather have Putia in the lineup than Cunnin. And sure, Putia is younger, less experienced, but he proved to be part of the winning Jackets of earlier in the season. Cunnin has only shown to be part of the losing Jackets of recent times. There have only been a few moves that Don Waddell has made where I disagreed. Bringing in Cunnin and not doing anything else noteworthy at the deadline, that's one of them. That's one of the things that I disagreed with him about. Bringing in Cunnin and not doing anything else noteworthy at the deadline, That's just, I don't know. That not pleased with that decision by Waddell. And as I said in my last episode, I understand why he didn't make any changes. I didn't agree with it. Now I respect it, but looking back, I wonder if it was truly the wisest decision. I mean, look at our record recently. We obviously could have used some help. I know some people are saying that getting Boone and Chinny back and Monahan back are they're like getting new players at the deadline. But how has that worked out for us? It hasn't. At all. And Cunnin, as I said, was not the big splash we were hoping for. Maybe even what the team was hoping for. He was not an upgrade to the roster. He was just another depth player. And in my mind, he is no better than Putia. And he has less offensive upside than Del Belbaluz. And with Sillinger out of the lineup, you know what I would have done? I would have brought up Del Belbaluz to play center in his spot. I would have not thrown Boone Jenner in there. He's coming back from a major shoulder surgery. He is not the top line center, quote unquote, top line center of last season. He's nowhere near that form right now. So why not bring up a guy who has proven he can hang in the NHL and put up points for a team desperate to score right now? It just doesn't make sense to me. Chinnikov, I think, was slowly returning to form, but he still can't find the back of the net. Yeah, if I had to pick something, this mess is because of chemistry. Unlike what Blue Jackets expert Bob McElligott says. And another thing about chemistry, I can't overlook the fact that this may be a locker room chemistry thing as well. While Boone was out, this was Zach Werenski's team. Zach was the leader in that room. Now, you suddenly have him step aside for Captain Boone. Maybe that's part of it as well. Maybe Zach needs to lead instead of Boone. So that's my take on the current Blue Jackets disaster. It's sad that we have had so many disasters in 25 years of existence and not enough things to celebrate. But I want to segue into something a little controversial here. Again, in previous episodes, I have discussed what the Jackets should do, like what they need to do this summer to improve. I talked about upgrading goaltending and defense, which I still believe they need to do. But after what I've seen recently, I've decided something that perhaps a lot of Jackets fans will disagree with me about. I think it's time to move on from Boone Jenner. I love the guy. I love how he's given his heart, his soul to this team and the city of Columbus. But is he truly part of the future of this team? Is he truly part of the core we want to keep together? Right now, I would say the core that we want to keep together is Fantilli, Marchenko, Voronkov, Monahan, Olivier, Johnson. Those are your untouchables right now. Sillinger, I would like to keep, but I wouldn't be opposed to him being moved for the right price. Same for Chinnikov. I mean, the dude cannot stay healthy. Hopefully he'll get his stride back from before his injury. But even if he does, maybe he'd make a good trade chip. But I think the Jackets need a change in leadership. Make Werenski the captain. They were better when it was his team. Trade Boone to upgrade your lineup. If you want a big, slower, physical veteran, re-sign JVR or find an upgraded replacement. But these last few weeks have shown me that this team would be fine moving on from Boone Jenner. And again, I like the guy a lot, all right? But this is a business, and we want to be a better team. So I think Waddell has to ask himself, are we truly a better team with Boone in the lineup? And maybe that will change when Sillinger and Monahan return, and Boone can move to a less prominent role on the wing. But as of right now, I hate to say it, but I would consider our captain expendable. And again, that may not sit well with a lot of fans out there, but if the Jackets really, truly want to be a consistent contender, they're going to have to make some tough choices. And some of those choices may not please the fans until they see the number of wins rise in the column of the standings. I was going to end this episode right there, but I have to say something really quick. I have some breaking news. It appears that Sean Monahan and Eric Goodbranson will be back this week, probably even tomorrow versus the New York Islanders. So many difficult roster decisions to make now. But as of now, Chinnikov appears that it appears that he will be a healthy scratch. I know he is not scoring, but I didn't see him as a liability. I think I'd rather have him or JVR on the second line with Fantilli and KJ instead of Boone Jenner. Or take Cunnin out of the lineup and have a 3A line. Not necessarily a fourth line, but like a 3A line that might be able to add a little scoring here and there. Cunnin, until he proves me otherwise, he's a waste of a roster spot. I mean, who would you rather have in your lineup when you were desperate to find more offense? Luke Cunnin or Yegor Chinnikov? Seriously, which of those two? You need more offense. Do you want Cunnin or Chinnikov in your lineup? I think the answer is obvious. And I think if it is true that Chinnikov is going to be a healthy scratch, then I have to, once again, as rare as it is, I have to disagree with Dean Evison here. That's all for now, gang. I'm sure if you're listening to this, including my dad, because he is a Ranger fan and they are disappointing their fans too right now, I'm sure you are just as frustrated as I am. I hate turning on a Jackets game and expecting a loss, and then seeing a loss. Recently, without it even being close. Sure, the Jackets are still in the playoff race, but let's face it, it does not look good. Even if they win 60% of their remaining games, they're not going to make the playoffs. The chances are not high. The Canadiens, Islanders, Bruins, and Rangers, they're all fighting with the Jackets for that one spot right now. The Jackets were in control of their own destiny and they let it slip away. Oh, what could have been, right? I mean, it could have been a happy ending. Instead, it's probably going to end the way a season usually ends for the Jackets, and that's with frustration. I'm going to be a hypocrite here and tell all you Jackets fans to stay positive and think about where we expected the team to be when we first started this season. Did any of you expect them to be fighting for a playoff spot in March? Neither did I. Our team has greatly improved. We have a competent head coach, a darn good coach, if you ask me. We have a competent, experienced GM. Next season and beyond, looking good right now. But again, my mouth is saying that, but my brain is thinking how frustrated I am. How much I was looking forward to the Jackets making the playoffs and how much adversity they had overcome to get there. They seem to be closing the book before they're getting to that happy fairy tale ending. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Blue Sky at WhalerJacket, on Instagram as well, or shoot me an email at whalerjacket@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, because misery loves company, right? Feel free to give me a shout and complain to your heart's content. I would be glad to commiserate with you. So this wasn't really a very upbeat episode. I'm hoping my next one will be. Until that time, take care, and yes, I'm still going to say it. I've not given up hope yet, not given up completely, so I'm going to say it. Go Jackets.